Alright guys, we should have Sean Fitzgerald here. I'm going to bring him in. Sean, how's it going, my dude?
That's going alright. How are you?
I'm doing good. I see you got your Browns drip on, I guess, man. Are you ready? It's opening Sunday.
Yeah, it's almost hard to believe that's already the opener, with everything that's gone on since March. I still remember I was having a fantasy baseball draft on that league's playoffs, funny enough, for the first time in that league's existence. But the next morning, the MAC tournament had yet to be canceled. I'm driving up to Cleveland, starting to hear the whispers, and then I just go into a parking garage, don't leave my car, and it's just, having this NFL season was probably the last thing on my mind with how everything has been going, like the last 5, 6, however many months it's been now.
Doesn't it feel like a year ago that happened? I mean, I remember specifically that day, and it just feels like forever ago. And now we're here, and a couple weeks ago, we were all worried if week 1 was even going to happen, and now, it looks like, hopefully, let's pray that we can get through this season on time.
Yeah, that day was also the last time I saw Enzo in person until a few weeks ago. So that was just like, something else in and of itself, just not really being able to see people or be like on air in the studio. That was just, a shock to me.
Right. So I gotta ask you, as we start here today, you've been covering the Cleveland Indians games for WKSU. How has it been being down at the stadium? I mean, I saw your audio story on the game, and how you can hear, the sounds and everything. But tell me, man, give me a little bit of insight. What's it like?
Oh boy, yeah, it is something else in there. When I go in, especially when I'm in the press box, it seats up to 100 people. It's way bigger than I ever would have expected. It is absolutely massive in there. As I try to get a little bit of water to keep my throat hydrated.
Gotcha. So, do they like expand the press box? Do they renovate it?
No. So basically, like the press box, apparently it's always been about that big, as far as I can tell. But inside the stadium, you have all those banners all around the area. You can see like where I'm seated at in the press box. I'm seated like towards the very one end of the press box, like further away from like Hamilton and everyone like that. So I'm at the one end, and I'm able to see like the cardboard cutouts on one part of the lower deck and everything. But I love where I'm at because I'm able to have like the windows open like right in front of me, be able to take like pictures, and it honestly feels really nice in there. And I'm not going to lie, but it is a really nice view. And it also is just with COVID, you're only allowed to have up to 24 home media members in the press box and 11 away media members in that press box area. And the other night I was there, the Browns had that scrimmage or whatever, and it was like, oh, where is everybody? I completely forgot because I'm like, football has been the last thing on my mind. But I've honestly started to come to like not having fans there as much. The last few times I've been there, the only times where it's really been that awkward have been those moments where you're like really close and you're just down, where it's like 8th or 9th inning, same kind of scenario, and it's just like there's no energy that's created by anyone else other than the team themselves. It's really interesting to hear and pick up on, like Andy Baines, I think it was, the hitting coach for the Brewers. I heard him go on his little tirade the other night when he got ejected. That was something else. I don't know how the TV crews handled that, if they had to basically shut off the audio or what, but
I wasn't.
You hear a lot of things that you normally wouldn't hear, and it just is very interesting. I definitely have loved it. I feel like a kid in a candy store, but at the same time, like I've been there, working on that postcard, or more so now, just trying to get stuff done. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to adjust and be at a more full angle. For those of you who don't know or follow me, I actually sprained my ankle a couple days ago, but it's something that got a lot better compared to what I thought I was going to be at right now. But it's really just crazy to think. We're like among the media, we're among one of only a couple hundred in America, totally across all the stadiums to be able to get in.
I know. It's absolutely insane. I would say watching baseball, it hasn't really had the biggest effect on me. I haven't really noticed the fans not being there as much as I have for especially basketball. I think that the NBA playoffs and just the NBA bubble in general has been tremendously hit by the fans, but I don't feel that way about baseball as much. I want to talk with you specifically about the Tribe. Obviously, a rough 4-game series against Kansas City, dropping the last 3. But the fact of the matter is, they're only a half game back of the Twins for second place. They are 1.5 games back of the White Sox for the division. This is a big series against Minnesota coming up this weekend, and the way the MLB playoff format is scheduled this year, right now, unfortunately, even though because the Indians have a better record than Toronto and the Yankees, because of the way the format is, the Indians would be the 7th seed. Are you nervous at all about this wild card format? I alluded to it a little bit when I talked about this at the beginning of the show. Obviously it's 1 versus 8, 2 versus 7, 3 against 6, 4 versus 5. What worries me is it's a best out of 3, and let's give the Rays, for example, the Rays have been the best team in the American League this season. We just saw the Indians lose 2 straight games against Kansas City. You lose 2 games in that wild card run, you're out, you're gone like that, and anything can happen. Does that worry you with our Indians specifically? Because that does worry me.
So, in regards to being the wild card, I'm not as worried as I would have been, at the start of the season because of just how strong the pitching staff has been. I know you can only get so far with pitching, but this staff, McKenzie, Plesac, Carrasco, Savale, who's basically thrown, except I think the other night, he's thrown a quality start, 6 innings or more every single start, and MVP and Cy Young, Shane Bieber. I know he hasn't been given those awards yet, but it's more than likely that he'll earn those.
At least the Cy Young. I think if the Indians win the division, MVP is possible, but I don't know if you can give a guy an MVP if they don't win the division.
He's had a bigger impact on this team than he could on any other team. He's basically the Verlander MVP kind of guy. He is the Kershaw MVP kind of guy. But just to get back to the main point, in a short series, when you have Bieber and you're able to throw Plesac, I think is your 2 or 3, and then I don't know if you throw Savale or Carrasco as your absolute 3rd starter.
Right now.
Any of those 3, any of those 3 or 4 within that 3-game series, I am more confident in that than I am in a longer series. More so just because you have more pitching available to you right then and there. And then if you have to burn through it at all, you've used it up for that series, but you're able to advance. That's the only thing, is that if they suddenly have to burn through all of their starters, that's the only worry I have.
That's a good point. I guess my worry is this. Let's say Bieber's going to go out and Bieber's going to be Bieber. But let's say he has a little bit of an off night. Let's say he gives up 2 runs. That's an off night for Bieber. Let's be honest. Bieber gives up, he goes 7 innings and gives up 2 runs. That's an off night for a guy like Bieber. And the offense just doesn't produce. So you lose a game, maybe 2-1 or 1-0. That's what worries me is for 2 or 3 games, will this offense show up enough? Because I think over time, 5-7 games, I think an offense can show up. I don't know if an offense, you play that series, it's going to be so quick, and it's going to be in a bubble, too, from what I understand. I think the American League is going out to California. That worries me, too, because the Indians are built as a cold-weather team. Pitching, bullpen, timely hitting. In warm weather,
I would like to interject with that right now.
Go ahead.
They do not play well in cold weather. They do not play well in April. They do not play too well in May. They warm up normally during the summer. Now, with how this season is playing out, they kind of got off to a slightly slow start. But given the circumstances of a 60-game sprint instead of a 162-game marathon, it's a lot different to have to judge that. The Indians are more so a team that has played better in those warm weather months once they've been able to get going. I don't think they're built for the cold weather at all. They are they don't do well in those mainly cold weather monster months that are starting to heat up towards that warmer weather. So it could be to their benefit if they're able to play outside in LA. I don't know if, honestly, if that's 100% the case, if they are going to go into a bubble. I have not been able to confirm that 100% either way. So, I mean, if they get to play in Cleveland, the only thing that benefits them and any other team that gets to play in their home ballpark is the ballpark dimensions. Because don't forget, you have Comiskey's Bowl in Boston, the short porch at Yankee Stadium. You have the brick wall going up into the Bay and San Francisco, and then you have the mini monster in left field in Cleveland. Each ballpark has its own dimensions, and your only home field advantage is going to be knowing for your outfielders how the contours of the walls play, and maybe at Wrigley how maybe the wind patterns might go, just with how crazy those are over there. And they were even more strange prior to the installation of new video boards and stuff like that over there.
Yep. Well, my thought is just, generally in cold weather, pitching wins. Generally in cold weather, the ball does not fly as well. So I get your point that the Indians don't usually play well in cold weather. But I think in a postseason environment where pitching and bullpen extremely matters much more in cold weather because we see typically a low-scoring game. In my opinion, that favors the Indians more than potential warm weather. If the Indians get into a 7-6 game, more likely than not, they're going to lose that game. The Indians are going to need to play smart 3-2, 2-1 games, in my opinion, in order to make it far in advance. But I think this team does have the pitching to potentially make a deep playoff run if the offense at least provides that spark they need.
Yeah, totally. I agree with you on that point. Pitching in October, that's the biggest thing, is that when you see a lot of these teams, while they haven't been able to hit, it's the pitching that's been, that one or two stars, whether it be in the bullpen or starters that legendary run that Madison Bumgarner went on, or just all those kinds of things. When you get to October, it's really just if you're in, you get hot, you have a shot. That's the biggest thing.
Yep.
I was going to just make a point. Was it unrelated to that? But then his lineup, yeah, that's what I was going to say. Cesar Hernandez. Incredible one-year signing, probably not going to be back. You had Jose, doing Jose things. Lindor is heated up finally. Santana, I think he's doing just fine. He draws enough walks to offset.
His walks are basically a base hit. He gets a walk once every game. So
Samuel Reyes is doing well. Naquin, picking up slack. I haven't seen enough of Josh Naylor to be able to pass judgment on him. But really, your two spots are if you can get Roberto Perez healthy enough, because I think ever since he injured his shoulder, whether it be on opening night or just in that opening series against Kansas City, he's not been quite the same. So if you can get him right, that's one hole in the lineup that you kind of strengthen up a little bit from within. And then all you really have to worry about, in my opinion, is maybe that last outfield spot, that number 9 hitter, whether it's the Shields, whether it's Mercado, because I've seen Mercado start to come around a little bit after getting off to a very slow start. He was someone who, entering the 2019 season, I was advocating a lot for. And, I actually got to see his first Major League home run on my birthday in person, so
that's
really cool. But, if Mercado's able to turn around and get anywhere close to where he was last year, this lineup goes from looking terrible to decent. I'm not saying, top 5, top 10, but
No, I completely agree. I will counter with you with Perez with this. Number one, in my opinion, he's absolutely the best defensive catcher in baseball. I would not rather have anybody else back there but Roberto Perez for the playoffs. I think he does such a great job with all of our pitchers. Number two, I would say this. We were all concerned about Roberto in the 2016 playoffs, and Roberto even in 2017, 2018 when he played. He's a clutch postseason hitter. Roberto may not have the greatest average in the world, but when you need that hit, Roberto always seems to step up. Let me just say this. I think this Indians team could make a deep... The Indians could go two ways. they could make a deep playoff run, or they could be eliminated in the wild card round and swept.
I mean, those are the only two true outcomes with this team. I mean, they get into though that if they end up as a division winner, I think they're going to get at least the second round of postseason. But this year, being the 8-team field for each league, it is more so, I think it'd still be termed as probably like the AL DS. I'm going to guess. The thing is, I don't remember if I've seen it being termed as a 3 out of 5 or a 4 out of 7 kind of series.
So the way it's gonna work is the wild card round is the best out of 3, and then it goes to normal. So ALDS best out of 5, ALCS best out of 7, and so I guess the other question I have with you on the Tribe is Zimmer. What do we do with Zimmer? I mean, Zimmer looked like I liked his new batting stance he had. He looked pretty comfortable. He's a very good defensive center fielder. But I mean, is time running out on Zimmer?
I think it's honestly, that's a fair assessment that it is. It's also just you haven't been able to get him enough at bats, and the same thing. Here's the thing with the outfield that was happening at the beginning of the year. You had too many outfielders to be able to give playing time to. That's why you saw Mercado not in there as often. That's why you started to see Zimmer once he faded and trying to figure out which pieces mix and match. You didn't see him in the lineup as often. You saw him get optioned.
Yeah, I mean, it's a double-edged sword, but you know what? I defended the Indians on it because I said, you know what? You got to find some outfielder because we always knew that Naquin.
Zimmer was finally figuring it out. I thought he was going to be the answer. But, I think next spring is going to be his make it or break a year. You can't do much more than you already have for him already. It's just a very, very tough situation for him to be in. Especially, if he had not sustained all those injuries, I think we would finally have a more definitive answer on what he is. I was surprised that they traded, back in 2016, Clint Frazier over Bradley Zimmer. At that point, because I thought, Bradley Zimmer would be the one that they would trade out versus Frazier, but hey, both of them have not been able to break into their respective major league outfields for extended periods of time.
Yeah, that's true.
Zimmer did have a time for a little bit where he had some stuff going on. He wasn't necessarily a qualified hitter, but he's always been a very good defensive player, so that's always been a plus side for him. It's just a matter of can you keep him healthy enough to hit. That's going to be a thing. I think he still has a chance, and he's going to have a chance to prove that this coming spring.
Absolutely.
I don't know where he has options left or whatnot. I assume this is probably his last option year or whatever. To be honest, I know you'll probably bring this up with Mike Clevenger, and I'll just start it right now. I was shocked. I didn't even know that Clevenger had an option year left.
I was unaware of that too. So
I knew Plesac did, but I did not know that. I did not know that Clevenger did. Although I guess it would probably be next year. He would have probably run out of option years, is my guess. Or if he didn't, he would have had an option year, but he would have had to have. If I'm remembering right, I don't think I am for certain. He might have had to have consented to be sent down despite having that option.
Right.
Or there would have been some other process. But even dealing Clevenger, you see Naylor, coming in, he's helped out a little bit. It's not like he's the outfielder that we would have wanted to get a Gallo or whoever.
No, but for the value of that trade, you got Naylor over this year, next year. It can be your everyday left fielder. You got a backup catcher. I love Control, and I like the addition of edges too, because Leone and Taylor were not cutting in as backup catchers. We saw that when Roberto Perez came out. They couldn't hit a ball if it was thrown right at their face. I mean, at least Austin Edges is a decent backup catcher. Control will help out of the bullpen. That bullpen's been very solid all year long. It's been the good surprise of the team. We talked about it in just bulks, pitching, bullpen. And again, this lineup is good. They have good hitters. It's just about, can that bottom of the order, can Naylor, can Perez, and can DeShields or Mercado, whoever that center fielder is, can they just get on base? We don't even need you to hit a home run. Can you just move the line down the line? The Indians are not going to hit a lot of home runs. They're going to need to do sacrifice flies. They're going to need to ground out for RBIs. They're going to need to do all the little things to produce runs. And I'm telling you right now, if the Indians get the lead early, this is the whole key for the Indians. Get the lead early. It doesn't even matter if it's 1-0 after 4 or 5 innings. If they can just get the lead, those pitchers just relax. But when those pitchers give up an early run, when they're down 1-0, when they're down 2-0, the hitters seem to press. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just mental, but I feel like every time the Indians score first, they're going to win the game, and every time they don't score first, they're going to lose the game. That's just how I feel right now.
I mean, I just don't know what to say to that. I don't know. But I did want to touch on one of the other prospects that I've been looking at a little bit more from that deal. Not Gabriel Arias or Joey Cantillo, but the infielder Owen Miller, who's able to kind of be like a Swiss Army knife. I think he's got a lot of upside, and I think he could be a Ben Zobrist kind of guy, like more so like prime Zobrist for this team. I like Miller a lot, but to your point with just not really knowing like how the Indians are going to come out of it, I think it's the nature of the game. The game is meant to have the ebb and flow, and it's just, you're not going to always pick a winner right away. Kind of go to sports.
Yeah. I mean, I mentioned this last week, Sean. I said, why do we, whenever a trade, doesn't matter if it's the NFL, the MLB, the NBA, as soon as a trade happens, everybody rushes and goes, this team won, this team lost. And in reality, 90% of trades, unless it's the worst trade in the world, and it's clearly the worst trade in the world, 90% of trades, you gotta wait like 2 or 3 years to see who technically won these trades. And a lot of times, it's a win-win deal.
Yeah, more so, I think it's just like, for the moment right there and then, and also, what I'm going to say, there and then, and also just, the immediate impact. That's where you're trying to figure out who won and lost, and then you revisit those trades down the line and be like, okay, who really won and who really lost? Because you'll see trades flip on a paradigm to where, this team won because they series, whatever, on that rental, and but they kind of just lost at the same time because you want these prospects come up. Well, guess what? You had a bunch of teams probably in the past where like, the rental is the winner piece in this deal, not the prospects, because the prospects kind of flopped, because that's the thing that they are, prospects.
Right.
You're not guaranteed anything. There's only a few prospects that I'd say have ever been anywhere close to a guarantee. That's Steven Strasburg, Chris Bryant, Francisco Lindor, and a couple others.
Well, even Lindor. Nobody expected Lindor to be this good.
Not for the power, but just, that he was going to be a good player.
Right.
Like, those are the 3 players that just I listed off the top of my head that popped first in my head that, are basically guaranteed to be a good player. Right.
Okay, so you mentioned in the comments a little bit earlier, how about Toronto? They've been by far the surprise of the American League this year. You take a look at the MLB standings here.
I think they're the surprise, honestly. Here's the thing with Toronto. Vladimir Jr., I saw him at the Home Run Derby in person last year. Bo Bichette, Kevin Biggio, you got Teoscar Hernandez. Who else do you have out there? I mean, you've got some really, really nice, exciting youth on the hitting side. You just were able to get Nate Pearson up. He had a really good first start or two before running into a little bit of a shoulder issue. Hyun Jin Ryu as part of your rotation. I mean, Danny Jensen. You've got so much talent, and not to mention that the Blue Jays got, I believe, Vanderbilt shortstop Austin Martin, I think it was, who dropped to them in the Rule 4 draft, and that was a shock because the kid, basically, I guess well, I guess we're basically the same age, but we're at the point where, like, basically most of these players started getting drafted are younger than I am. But,
Right.
like, they have so much young talent where you could see them putting together a dark horse campaign, maybe even over the course of a 162-game season. And, I mean, really, just the Blue Jays have been impressive, and I've been, even if I didn't predict them right off the bat to be the team that was, like, a complete surprise, I'd say your surprises rely more on Baltimore actually still being competitive, and that you have
Detroit Detroit always being dominant.
Well, they did not make it. Like, Baltimore does not surprise me just based off of, this is a shorter season, and based off the talent they have. I mean, you basically have one of the keys to success in that you've got power, you've got youth, athleticism, you've got a little bit of pitching.
Well, 3 points. Number one is, of course, Toronto. I believe they're either their GM or their team president is
Ross Atkins and Mark Shapiro.
Yes, Shapiro, of course, the former team president of the Indians. The second one I would make is in terms of surprises. I know Baltimore has been a surprise in the league, but I'm talking about specifically playoff teams. Baltimore would not make the playoffs right now. That's why I say Toronto is the biggest surprise to me. And
looking at the 18th field right now for me, just trying to take
it would be here. I have it right here. So if the playoffs ended today, the first round matchup, the Yankees would go to Oakland to take on the A's. The Indians would go to Tampa to take on the Rays. The Astros would go to Chicago to take on the White Sox, and Toronto would go to Minnesota to take on the Twins. I do gotta say though, I'm looking at the playoff structure. Maybe it's just based off records, but I don't like the way that they formatted these playoffs, because in my opinion, the wild cards should be ranked by record. It shouldn't just go the second place teams get 4, 5, and 6, because the Indians have a better record than the Astros and the Blue Jays, but because they're third in their division, they're knocked all the way down to the 7th seed.
I think you have to take into account it's just weird this year in that this is going to be a one-off thing. I think this is also incentive for them to be like, hey, if you want a guaranteed spot in this 18 postseason, you better play well and not tank like the Yankees did and just end up as a wild card one year when it was still the 14 wild card playoff format.
Well,
because otherwise, you're not going to have a guaranteed shot to get in, because you may have 3 teams better than you rather than 1 or 2 for that 8th wild card.
Yeah, and I said this, Sean.
That was their incentive. Like, if you want to be in the playoffs, be one of the best 2 in your division, and you're in. If you're trying to go for that 7 or 8 spot, you're not guaranteed. That would be, and this is just something that came up from the top of my head.
Right.
I really have not thought too much in depth about this, and it's just,
No, it's a fair point. I will say this, and it's going to be a counterpoint, but I'm just going to say it. If the Indians win the World Series, I'm obviously going to celebrate like crazy, but it's got to have an asterisk on it. I'm sorry, it does. This is not like the NBA where you just finish 8 games out and then you go right into the playoffs. You're taking away over 100 games. It's a 60-game season. Anything could happen. We've seen we saw last year teams that get hot in April and May are in last place by September. It's just not normal. Nothing is normal about this. We've seen the good teams have been good. Generally, bad teams have been bad. There have been some surprises. But in my opinion, look, if the Indians win the World Series, we can celebrate like crazy. We can call it a legit World Series all we want. But it does have to say on there, in the history books, asterisk, 2020 season shortened to 60 games due to the COVID-19 pandemic. I'm sorry, it just does.
It's still a championship for me, because with the way this year has gone, especially just everything, like, whoever comes out on top of this, they're gonna be champions.
It's gonna come down to the healthiest team and the smartest team and the team that plays the best. That's what every year it comes down to. But this year, more than ever.
Yeah.
More than ever.
I'd still say, though, that among, like, especially even the American League, those teams were already going to be competing for those spots. Those first 7 or 8 teams. were going to be in there. Atlanta in the National League. Philadelphia, I knew was going to compete. I just didn't think they'd be, in second place right now.
Absolutely. The Dodgers, the Braves, the Cubs, the Cardinals.
St. Louis I was expecting to be there, but for different reasons other than their winning percentage. The Dodgers, I was expecting there. I think I had the Padres listed as a pick for one of my playoff teams. I predicted well before we had everything all finalized, but I didn't necessarily list them as when they would. The team I was hoping would be in there was kind of going to be the Cincinnati Reds. The National League is more of a crapshoot than
yeah. The National League. I mean, the Reds and the Brewers both in the NL Central have had disappointing seasons.
But also, just don't forget that the Cardinals, because of the whole COVID situation they had, they're going to be basically playing doubleheaders almost every day.
Yeah, I mean, Rob Manfred. I mean, this guy.
What bothers me is that it shouldn't be I get that it was COVID that caused a lot of missed games, but if they get in by technicality of winning percentage and those other two don't, I don't like that. That's the
the Cardinals they could potentially play 10, 15 games less than potentially other teams, and this Manfred, if we can't make the games up, we're just gonna go by winning percentage. Okay, well, for the first month of the season, weren't the Marlins in first place because they only played 2 games and they won both of them? Come on!
I mean, just in general though, I know that it's just a sticky subject, but it's just so many variables this year.
I agree.